He walked into a crowded bar, laughed with friends, smiled at strangers, and disappeared into the night, never to be seen again. It sounds like the setup to a thriller, but this is no fiction. This is the real story of Brian Shaffer, a 27-year-old medical student whose sudden disappearance stunned a nation, stumped investigators, and continues to haunt anyone who dares look too closely. His vanishing is one of the most chilling mysteries in modern American crime history. In the blink of an eye, he went from a promising future to a face on a missing persons poster, a name whispered in true crime circles, and a puzzle with no pieces that fit. Brian Shaffer seemed like the kind of person who had it all. Handsome, intelligent, and ambitious, he was in his second year at Ohio State University's College of Medicine. He had dreams of becoming a doctor, but not just any doctor, one who made a difference, one who healed with compassion. Yet those who knew him well say he also carried a creative spirit. Brian was deeply into music. He played guitar and talked often about escaping the confines of traditional life, fantasizing about dropping everything to play music on beaches around the world. This was a man with both discipline and dreams, someone who could dissect a cadaver by day and strum heartfelt chords by night. His life was a contradiction in the most beautiful way. But behind the outward success there was pain. Just weeks before his disappearance, Brian's mother, Renee, had passed away from a rare form of cancer. Her death hit him hard. He was close to her, and the grief seemed to sit heavily on his shoulders. Friends noted a visible change in his demeanor. More introspective, quieter, at times drifting off mid-conversation. Still, he kept pushing forward. He was in a committed relationship with Alexis, a fellow medical student, and they were planning a trip to Miami for spring break. It was a chance to escape, breathe, and maybe start healing. But Brian never made it to that flight. March 31st, 2006. The Friday that would become infamous. Brian met up with his friend Clint Florence for a night out. The plan was simple. Celebrate the end of exams, unwind, and enjoy the first night of spring break. They started at a couple of local bars, where Brian appeared to be in good spirits. He texted Alexis, telling her how much he loved her. Around 1:15 a.m., the two friends made their way to the Ugly Tuna Saloon, a quirky bar perched on the second floor of a shopping complex in Columbus. Surveillance footage captured Brian walking in with Clint and another friend. Inside, they grabbed drinks, mingled, and enjoyed the crowd. At some point, Brian was seen talking to two young women near the escalator. He looked relaxed, maybe even flirtatious. And then nothing. He was never seen again. Not on camera. Not by friends. Not by bartenders. It was as if the bar had swallowed him whole. Investigators were baffled. The bar had only one main entrance and exit, both covered by surveillance. Police reviewed the tapes over and over. People came and went, but no footage showed Brian leaving. Some speculated he slipped out during a moment when the camera panned or perhaps disguised himself. But that theory didn't hold water. The footage was clear, continuous. Could he have exited through a service door in the back? That door led to a dimly lit, dangerous construction zone with no clear path out. Search dogs were brought in. Crews combed the area. Dumpsters were emptied and examined. Nearby buildings checked. Nothing. No blood. No body. No sign of struggle. Just silence. The Columbus Police Department launched an investigation unlike anything they'd handled before. They questioned Clint and other friends. Most cooperated. Clint, however, lawyered up and refused a polygraph. That raised eyebrows. Was he hiding something, or just following legal advice? Police couldn't compel him to speak. Without evidence of a crime, they couldn't arrest or search. It was a dead end. What made the case more bizarre was the complete absence of any digital footprint. Brian's phone was never used again. His bank accounts remained untouched. He didn't withdraw cash, book flights, or access email. His apartment looked undisturbed. His car remained in the lot. If he planned to disappear, he had done so with a mastery rarely seen outside of spy novels. But those who knew him insisted he would never just leave. He loved Alexis. He was still grieving his mother. He had a future. He had plans. Brian's father, Randy Shaffer, became the face of the search. He posted flyers, gave interviews, and followed every lead. He refused to give up hope. His pain was visible, raw. In 2008, tragedy struck again when Randy died in a freak windstorm. At his funeral, the family opened an online guestbook. One message stood out. "Dad, I love you. I'm okay. Brian." It was chilling. Investigators traced the message to a public library in Columbus. Could it have been Brian? Or a cruel prank? Alexis, meanwhile, was devastated. She had believed in her heart that Brian was alive. She called his phone every night just to hear his voicemail. Once, the phone rang 3 times before going to voicemail. That moment reignited hope, but the phone company said it could have been a glitch. Still, the moment haunted her. Theories began to circulate. Some said Brian had been killed in the bar, his body hidden by staff or patrons in a sinister cover-up. Others believed he had faked his disappearance, escaping the grief and pressure of his life. A few proposed darker ideas: abduction, trafficking, or even an underground death cult. None of these theories ever bore fruit. The FBI released age-progressed images of Brian years later, but no new leads emerged. To this day, there is no closure, no evidence, no confession, just a man who vanished in plain sight. Brian Shaffer's story is more than a cold case. It's a mirror to our fears, that we can be surrounded by people, technology, cameras, and still disappear. That sometimes, no matter how hard we look, the truth remains hidden. So what happened to Brian? Was it murder, escape, or accident? Could he still be out there, living a secret life? Or did something unimaginably tragic occur that night? We may never know. But what we do know is this: the world remembers Brian Shaffer. And someone somewhere knows the truth. This has been another true crime investigation from Captain Justice True Stories. If you believe in justice, if you believe every story deserves an ending, subscribe now and hit the bell. Because the next story might be the one that finally answers the question: what really happened to Brian Shaffer?